Part 3. Chapter 17. The car had flipped upside down. Beth hung from her seatbelt with Jeremy suspended beside her. "Jeremy?" she called in a choked whisper. No answer. She found the release on her seatbelt and pressed it. She dropped down to the floor. Actually, to the roof, she reminded herself. Okay, what do I do? Beth asked herself, trying to calm down. What? Free Jeremy? Get out of the car? Get help? She found the release on Jeremy's seatbelt. Pushed. Nothing happened. She tried again. The belt let go with a snap, and Jeremy landed with a thud. I'm not hurt, Beth realized. We had a horrible accident, and I'm not hurt. Beth stared over at Jeremy. Bright light filled the car. She realized the headlights were still on, reflecting off the snow. No blood, no cuts, no open wounds. Relief swept through her. He's okay, too. Beth spotted the only way out of the crumpled car, the passenger side window. The glass had been knocked out in the accident. She wriggled through the window and landed in the snow. Now I have to save Jeremy. She stretched out flat on her stomach in the snow, then reached in to grab Jeremy's arm. She tugged as hard as she could. Jeremy moved a little. Beth pulled with all her strength until she slid Jeremy to the window. Now for the hard part. She clutched his coat and yanked. She pulled one arm out, then his head, then his shoulders. She pulled on his coat again, and the rest of his body slid out all at once. "Jeremy!" she cried. "Wake up, please!" He groaned and opened his eyes, blinking in the silvery light. What happened? "We were in an accident. You lost control of the car, and we went tumbling down a steep hill. Don't you remember?" Jeremy stared at her blankly. "Yeah, now I do. Are you all right?" I'm not sure." He sat up slowly. "Nothing hurts. I guess I'm okay." Beth uttered a sigh of relief. "Me too." "We've got to get back to that boy," Jeremy urged. "Maybe it's not too late to help him." Jeremy struggled to his feet. "Are you sure you should stand up?" "Yeah, I'm fine." He reached down and pulled Beth to her feet. "Hurry," he urged. "We've got to find that boy right away." They stumbled through the deep snow. Beth couldn't see the road. She hoped they were heading in the right direction. She glanced back at the car. It was a crumpled mess. The tires in the air, the roof flattened against the ground, the windows all shattered and reduced to slits, except the one she and Jeremy had escaped through. How did we ever survive that? Beth wondered. "The boy should be right about here," Jeremy said. "This is where we hit him." No sign of him, no footprints in the snow, no skid marks on the road. "We must be in the wrong place," Beth said quietly. "No," Jeremy replied. "Look." He pointed at the dark spots in the snow a few yards up ahead. "Bloodstains?" "How could he have walked away?" Beth asked. "Oh man," Jeremy muttered. "No way he could have walked. Could someone have picked him up while we were unconscious?" "Only you were unconscious," Beth pointed out. "I wasn't. I'd have heard it if a car stopped." "But where could he have gone?" "We can follow his tracks," Beth suggested. They searched for his footprints in the snow. There were none. None at all. "What's going on here?" Beth asked in a shaky voice. "How can this be?" Chapter 18. A crunching sound nearby. A low roar. "What's that?" Jeremy whispered. Beth heard it too. "It's a car," she exclaimed, "coming from over there." Headlights swept over the snow as the car approached. The low roar of its engine grew louder. Beth and Jeremy moved to the side of the road, frantically waving their arms. The car's headlights grew brighter. But it's not slowing down, Beth realized. "Hey, stop! Hey, stop!" she screamed. "Emergency, stop!" The car roared past them, whipping snow and slush into Beth's face. What is wrong with that guy? Why didn't he stop? Beth wondered. She watched as the car's taillights shrank to 2 red dots, then vanished. "Maybe he thought it was a trick," Jeremy suggested. "Maybe he thought we planned to rob him. Or maybe he was late for a New Year's party. It is New Year's after all." Beth clutched his arm. "Listen, another car is coming." "I'm going to make sure this one stops," Jeremy said. He strode to the center of the road and turned to face the oncoming vehicle. Beth joined him. A truck this time, she decided. She could tell by the way the ground shook and by the sound of its diesel engine. The truck's headlights rolled over the snowy ground. The vibrations beneath Beth's feet grew more intense. Beth and Jeremy frantically waved their arms over their heads. The truck sped toward them, roaring through the silent night. "Help us!" Beth screamed. "Please!" Beth could see the truck's grill and bumper. "Jump!" she shrieked. She flung herself out of the truck's path. Jeremy landed hard beside her. "I don't believe it!" Beth cried. "That truck nearly flattened us." He didn't even slow down, Jeremy murmured, his eyes on the vanishing taillights. What is wrong with people tonight? Don't they have any holiday spirit? They picked themselves up. Beth brushed some snow off Jeremy's back. I should be freezing, Beth thought, but I'm not. Must be the shock of the accident. Someone has to stop, Beth murmured. Help us, she thought. Please? Someone? A tear trickled down her cheek, then another, and another. She wiped them away. 3 more cars sped past them without slowing down. What are we going to do? Jeremy asked. We can't stay out here. We'll freeze. I saw some lights over there, Beth said, pointing, but she couldn't find them again. Where were they? Could the trees be blocking her view? She moved to the left, peering through the trees. And there they were, pale white lights, up near the top of the hill, windows glowing brightly. It's a house, she cried. Whoever lives up there will help us. They've got to. They hurried toward the distant lights. When they reached a wire fence, they climbed over and found themselves in a snow-covered field. The ground beneath the snow was uneven, and they both kept slipping. My boot is full of snow, she complained, but her foot didn't feel cold. Did she have frostbite? They trudged on. The lights grew brighter. They could see the house clearly, but they had to climb over 2 more fences before they finally reached it. Finally, Beth sighed as they climbed onto the wooden front porch. Lights glowed from 3 windows. Someone had to be home. Thank goodness, she thought. Oh, thank goodness. Beth pressed the doorbell. She could hear the chimes ringing inside. They waited. No one came to the door. Beth and Jeremy exchanged worried glances. Beth rang the bell again. She thought she saw the curtain in the front window twitch, but no one appeared. Jeremy knocked on the door. He pounded on it again and again, and still no one came. Help! Beth hollered. We've been in an accident. We need help. Please, Jeremy shouted. Let us in. No one came to the door. Why won't they open the door? Jeremy cried. Shh! I hear something. Listen. I hear it too, Jeremy exclaimed. It's a TV, and people talking, Beth said. They're in there, Jeremy insisted. Why are they ignoring us? They yelled, hammered their fists on the door. Nothing happened. No one came to the door. Why are they ignoring us? Why aren't they coming to help us? Jeremy cried. What are we going to do? Beth asked. Tears burned her eyes. We've got to get back to the road. Maybe some car will stop. Beth nodded. She didn't have any better ideas, but she was too upset to move. Tears rolled down Beth's face. Her body shook as she sobbed. Why won't anyone help us? Why? Beth fought to control her tears. Then they turned and retraced their steps through the fields and back to the highway. 2 more cars passed. They didn't stop. Beth didn't know what else to try. She wanted to curl up in a pile of snow and rest. We can get back into the car, Jeremy suggested. It's awfully cramped in there, Beth replied. At least it might keep us from freezing. Beth couldn't argue with that. They made their way to the car. It rested on its back, crumpled and lifeless like a squashed bug. The headlights had grown dim, the battery nearly dead. Beth hated the thought of crawling back inside. The only way is to lie completely flat and wriggle yourself through the window, she explained. I'll go first. I really don't want to do this, she thought, but she started to slide herself into the car. Something brushed against her face. A hand. Huh? Is someone in here? She cried, unable to hide her shock. Beth peered into the dark car. No, it can't be. Jeremy, she cried, there are 2 people in here, a boy and a girl, and... Jeremy sounded just as stunned. Who are they? How did they get in here? Chapter 19. Beth stared into the darkness at the boy and the girl. Their bodies were twisted, mangled and torn, and spattered with blood. Their eyes stared straight ahead, unblinking. Jeremy? They're dead, Beth choked out. She stared hard at their faces, and then shut her eyes. I know who they are, she thought. She backed out of the car window. Jeremy leaned down so he could peer into the car. Beth blocked his view. No, she told him. Don't look. Not yet. Why? There's something I've got to tell you first. What? She pulled Jeremy to her and held him. Beth, what? A tear rolled down her cheek, but only one. She was too stunned to cry. Jeremy, she whispered. The dead boy and girl in there? I recognize them. Who are they? Jeremy demanded. She didn't know how to tell him. She could hardly believe it herself. Beth, who are they? Jeremy repeated eagerly. They're us. You're lying, Jeremy yelled. No, Beth. Jeremy, it's us in there, she cried. We died in there. That's crazy. Don't you see? That's why no one will stop for us. Why those people wouldn't open the door for us. No, Jeremy repeated. No, no, no. It's true. We're dead. Maybe if I say it enough times, I'll believe it myself, Beth thought. No, Jeremy chanted. He pushed Beth away and threw himself on the ground. He tried to wriggle back inside the car. I'll get back inside myself, he wailed. I climb back into my body. Beth watched, horrified, as he struggled to reach his lifeless body. I've got to get back inside. I've got to, he called desperately. She watched him crawl into the car. Please, he begged. Please let me back in. Jeremy, stop, Beth yelled. It won't do any good. She grabbed his legs and dragged him out of the mangled car. My arms passed right through my body, he wailed. I can't get back inside myself. I tried, but I can't. Now what? Beth wondered. What happens now? Beth saw Jeremy's mouth opening and closing as he answered her, but she could barely hear his words. Something was wrong. Why did Jeremy suddenly sound so faint? Jeremy, she called. What's happening? She couldn't hear his reply. His voice faded to silence. Then Jeremy began to fade too. Jeremy, she cried. She reached out for him, tried to grab him, to hold on to him, but Jeremy was gone. Only the darkness remained, everywhere, closing on her, claiming her. Part 4. This Year. Chapter 20. What am I going to do? Renee wondered frantically. She was too confused and frightened to think straight. How could this have happened? PJ lay dead at her feet. Renee stared down at him, wishing with all her might that he would groan, roll over, scream at her, do something, anything. But PJ lay still, pale, so very dead. Silence hung heavily over the crowded room. Then a girl began to sob. We have to do CPR, Sean ordered. Renee, you do the breathing. I'll do his chest. Everybody leave. It's not going to help to have a crowd around. Sean's right, Greta called. Come on, get your coats. We'll let you know what happened. Renee couldn't move. She stared down at PJ. It's all my fault, she thought. I knew PJ had a heart murmur. I'm the only one Liz told, and I didn't say anything, not anything. I didn't even try to stop them. Renee, Sean called sharply. She forced herself to move. Okay, she muttered. First, I tilt back his head, chin up. Then I clear out his mouth. Now, 5 quick puffs of air. Renee lowered her head and blew into PJ's mouth. His lips are so cold, she thought. They are already so cold. She pulled her head up and took a breath. Then she blew another breath into PJ's mouth. She could hear Sean counting, setting the rhythm between her breathing and his pumps on PJ's chest. It was supposed to be a joke, Artie cried from somewhere behind her. A dumb joke. Nothing bad was supposed to happen. Come on, PJ, live. Please live, she heard Greta urge. Renee focused all her attention on Sean's counting and her breathing. I'll keep doing it, she told herself. I won't stop until he comes back to life. Count, 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 breathe, she muttered to herself. Count, 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 breathe. Renee felt a hand on her shoulder. She heard Sean's soft voice telling her to stop. No, Renee thought. I'm not stopping until PJ sits up. I'm not stopping. Count, 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 breathe. Count, count, count. Strong hands pulled her to her feet. Renee stared down at PJ's body. He's dead, Renee, Sean murmured. There's nothing else we can do. Should I call the police? She asked. She heard her voice quaver, and she swallowed hard. They won't blame us for PJ's death, will they? Sean frowned. I don't know what we should do. We've got to do something, Renee cried. We've got to call his parents. We've got to call Liz. We've got to tell everyone that... The window behind the couch glowed brightly as a car pulled into the driveway. Greta parted the curtains and peeked out. Someone's here, she exclaimed. Renee, it's your parents, I think. Quick, hide him, Artie shouted, until we figure out what to do. Won't that make us look even more guilty? Renee wondered. We've got to get our story straight before we tell anyone, Greta urged. Hide him! Hide him! Artie shrieked. He grabbed PJ's limp arms and started to tug. Sean and Greta rushed to help him pick up PJ's body. Renee hesitated, then grabbed one of PJ's thin legs. Hurry, Greta urged, watching the headlights roll over the wall. Where can we put him? The basement, Renee cried. She and Sean backed toward the kitchen. The body bumped over the carpet. Faster, Artie cried. Renee's stomach lurched as they hauled PJ through the kitchen. Don't lose it now, she told herself. You can't lose it now. Renee opened the basement door with one hand and flicked on the light. She glanced over her shoulder at the steep cement steps. Be careful, she warned the others. These steps are really uneven. Grasping PJ's ankles, she reached down with her foot and groped around for the first step. She found it, put her foot down, then felt for the next. Sean stayed one step above her. Rennie stared up at Artie. The dim light from the basement cast shadows across his face. She couldn't make out his expression. Don't think about anything but the steps, Rennie told herself. Don't try to decide what to do until you make it down the steps. One of PJ's pant legs slid up, and she felt the flesh of his ankle under her fingers. Cold and clammy. Dead. Rennie shivered. She forced herself to feel for the next step and continued down the stairs. Where should we put him? Sean asked when they reached the bottom. Behind the furnace, Rennie decided. I have to rest for a second, Greta gasped, then lowered the body to the ground. Well, I hate the way he's staring at me, Artie moaned. He squatted down by PJ's body and stretched his hand out over PJ's unblinking eyes. Rennie saw Artie's hand tremble. He pressed it down and slid it over PJ's eyelids. Sorry, he muttered. Sorry, PJ. Artie jumped back up. Come on, let's finish and get out of here. They hoisted the body up and struggled over to the furnace. There was room for PJ's head, but not his shoulders. They had to twist him on his side and force him inch by inch into the small space between the furnace and the wall. Good enough, Sean declared. We've got to get back upstairs. They tore up the rough concrete steps. Rennie slammed the basement door shut behind them, and they hurried into the living room. Greta rushed to the window and peeked out. It's gone, she announced. The car's gone. Huh? Who was it? Sean asked. Rennie sighed. People use our driveway to turn around sometimes, she said, shaking her head. The next block is a dead end, and the dead end sign is right across the street. Whoa, Sean breathed. Rennie choked back a sob. I see how Mark and Sandy didn't bother to stay, Greta said sourly. What do we do now? Artie asked. Rennie drew in a long, shaky breath. We have no choice, she declared. We have to call the police. Then I guess they'll call PJ's parents. What will they do to us? Greta asked. I don't know, Rennie answered. But it was an accident, a horrible accident, and we have to tell them the truth. Rennie's right, Sean said. We panicked. We should have called them right away. Let's at least bring the body back up here, Artie suggested. They're definitely going to think we're guilty if they find it hidden in the basement. Who's going to make the call? Greta asked. I'll do it, Sean replied. Greta handed him the cordless phone. He dialed 911. Rennie listened as he gave the emergency operator the information. No, I don't think he needs emergency treatment, Sean finished. He's definitely dead. Sean dropped the phone on the coffee table. They'll be here in 5 minutes. That's barely enough time to get PJ's body back up here, Artie exclaimed. They pounded through the kitchen to the basement stairs. Rennie found herself thinking about Liz. What am I going to say to her? How can I face her? Sean led the way back into the basement and over to the furnace. Not much time left. Artie crouched down and reached behind the furnace. He gasped. No, Greta cried. Huh? What's going on? Rennie demanded. She stared into the shadows behind the furnace. PJ's body was gone. Chapter 21. Panic swept over Rennie. She felt as if she couldn't breathe. Her legs gave way. She leaned back against the concrete cellar wall and shut her eyes, and waited. Waited for her heart to stop pounding, for her body to stop trembling. We've been tricked, she finally managed to choke out. Yeah, tricked, Greta murmured. She put an arm around Rennie's trembling shoulders. PJ pulled a good one on us, Artie agreed, shaking his head. I can't believe we fell for it, Sean added. Greta rolled her eyes. How could we think PJ died? We've pulled too many of these jokes ourselves to be fooled that easily. But he was so limp when we carried him, Rennie reminded them. He was so pale, so dead-looking. He was faking it, Sean declared. How else can you explain it? There wasn't time for anyone to find the body and move it. That's the only explanation, Rennie thought. Nothing else makes any sense. But she couldn't shake the memory of his cold skin under her fingers, his cold lips under hers as she fought to bring him back to life. I'm so glad he's alive, Greta's voice trembled. I was really terrified. PJ must be laughing his head off. Artie bounded up the stairs. Rennie laughed. She finally began to feel normal and relieved. She raced up the stairs after Artie. Do you know how scared I was? Rennie asked. She threw herself down on the sofa. I know exactly how scared you were, Greta exclaimed, plopping down next to Rennie. Because that's how scared I was. I thought it might be a joke, Artie said. All along I thought it might. Yeah, right. You were scared to death and you know it, Sean said. Artie glared over at Sean. Then they both cracked up. Rennie began to laugh. Soon all four of them were laughing, slapping each other high fives, rolling on the carpet. We're all having some kind of delayed shock reaction, Rennie realized. Then the doorbell rang. I'll bet that's PJ. He probably wants to gloat. Rennie hurried to the front door. She swung the door open and found herself staring at a dark uniformed police officer. I'm Officer Jackson from the Shadyside Police Department. We received a report of a death here. Rennie didn't know how to answer. Did you call the emergency number? The officer asked, fixing his eyes on hers. Rennie repeated. No. Everything is okay here. You must have the wrong address. I have to come in and check around, the officer told her. Sure, Rennie said quickly. She moved out of his way. Officer Jackson strode into the room. He gazed from face to face. All right, what's going on here? The policeman demanded. It was a trick, Rennie explained. Someone played a trick? You mean that someone phoned in a prank call? He narrowed his eyes. We treat prank calls to 911 very seriously. We always play tricks on each other, Sean explained. It doesn't always work, but this time it did. Someone fooled us into thinking he was dead. Sean explained what happened step by step. Thank goodness Sean stayed calm, Rennie thought. She felt too shaky to explain what happened with PJ in a logical way. We really believed he was dead. We wouldn't have called you otherwise, Sean concluded. And you're the one who lives here. The officer shifted his eyes to Rennie. She nodded. I need your permission to check the house, the officer told her. Go ahead, she answered. Rennie wanted him to search the house. She knew PJ's body wasn't down in the basement. She'd seen for herself that it was gone. But she kept wanting to go down and check one more time, just to make sure, because PJ looked so dead. Now Officer Jackson would check for her. Stay here, the policeman ordered before he left the room. No one leaves. Rennie watched the man enter the kitchen, heard him open the basement door, heard the thump of his shoes on the concrete step. Rennie counted each step. Okay, he's at the bottom, she decided. Now he's crossing over to the furnace. He's bending down. Silence. Did he find anything? The silence stretched out. Rennie dug her fingernails into her palms. You know there's nothing down there, she told herself. You know it. Rennie held her breath until she heard the thump of Officer Jackson's shoes climbing back up the stairs. He wasn't hurrying. He'd be hurrying if he found a body, Rennie decided. No problem down there, he reported, but I have to fill out a full report. The policeman recorded their names, addresses, and phone numbers before he left. Rennie didn't care what he did with them. She didn't care if he called her parents when they got home. PJ was okay. Nothing else mattered. No one spoke until they heard the police officer's car door slam. Whoa, Artie breathed. When he glared at me, I must confess that I killed PJ, Greta explained. I felt as if he could peek into my head and know everything bad I've ever done. I know it sounded like a total jerk describing her dumb practical jokes, Sean added. Rennie knew she would never want to play their game again. Let's promise no more tricks, she said. It's never going to be fun after tonight anyway. No more tricks, Greta agreed. No more tricks, Sean and Artie repeated. Rennie stood up and grabbed a half-empty bowl of M&Ms. I'm going to clean up, she announced. I don't want anything around to remind me of this horrible party. I'll help, Greta volunteered. She grabbed a few M&Ms and left for the kitchen. Maybe you should only have Halloween parties from now on, Artie joked. He picked up some empty soda cans and wandered after Greta. Tonight didn't help me get the Christmas spirit, he confessed sadly. They worked in silence until they had eliminated every trace of the party. Greta sighed when they gathered back in the living room. I'm beat. I can't believe we have to go to school tomorrow. I could sleep for a year. Me too, Artie answered. I'll get the coats. Greta gave Rennie a hug. See you tomorrow. Bye, Artie called. I guess I'll go too, Sean said. You going to be okay here by yourself? Rennie nodded. Sean pulled her close and kissed her. Rennie wished the kiss would never end. She didn't want to think about anything but the way Sean's lips felt against hers. Night, he whispered. Rennie locked the door the second Sean stepped outside. She fastened the chain, too, even though her parents never did. Then she checked every door and window. Rennie knew she should turn the lights off, but she didn't. She felt safer being able to see every corner. She didn't need any more surprises. She dragged herself into her room, sat on the bed and buried her face in her hands. She felt like crying. What a terrible night. What a terrible party. She wished her parents were home, or that she had asked Greta to stay with her. She didn't want to be alone. The phone rang, startling her. She picked it up from the nightstand. Hello? Hi, it's Liz. Is my brother still there? Stop it, Liz, please, Renee pleaded. We figured out the joke. We know your brother is okay. Excuse me? What joke? Did PJ fall for that joke with Sandy? What happened, Renee? I'm sure PJ will tell you all about it later if you don't already know, Renee replied. He isn't still there? Liz demanded. Where is he, Renee? He isn't here, Renee told her. Liz hung up. Renee forced herself to get up and changed into her favorite flannel nightgown with a little sheep on it. Then she crawled into bed, telling herself she would brush her teeth twice as long in the morning. But she couldn't fall asleep. She kept hearing Liz's voice in her head. Is my brother still there? Chapter 22. I didn't fall asleep for hours, Renee told Sean on the way to school the next morning. I kept hearing Liz's voice in my head. It gave me the creeps. They can't give up the joke, Sean replied. They're determined to convince us that something bad happened to PJ. He yawned. Oh man, I'm wrecked this morning. I kept dreaming you guys were carrying me down the basement stairs instead of PJ. I tried to tell you I wasn't dead, but you wouldn't listen. Renee patted his shoulder. What a horrible dream. I bet PJ will be waiting for us at school today, ready to laugh in our faces, Sean said. As soon as they pulled into the student parking lot, Renee climbed out of the car and scanned the crowd for PJ. She studied every face as she and Sean entered the school. No PJ. They ran into Greta and Artie in a hall. Greta didn't bother to say hi. I haven't seen PJ yet, but he has to be here somewhere, Greta informed them. I don't have any classes with him. Do you? Artie asked Renee. 5th period, history, she answered. PJ will be there, Artie declared. He's not going to cut out school for a joke that isn't fooling anybody. Artie is right, Renee thought. PJ isn't the type to skip class. I'll congratulate him on tricking us, and that will be the end of it. The first bell rang. Talk to you at lunch, Renee called. She continued to search the crowded halls for PJ or Liz as she hurried to her locker and onto her homeroom. Each class before lunch felt endless. When the bell rang at 12:30, Renee rushed to the cafeteria, hoping someone had spotted PJ. She just had to know that he'd shown up at school. But when she met up with Sean and Greta and Artie, they told her they still hadn't found him, or Liz, or even Ty. Sean and Artie started talking about a concert they all wanted to go to. Renee tried to follow the conversation, but she grew more and more anxious. You're being silly, she told herself. PJ climbed out from behind the furnace, which means he wasn't dead, which means it was all a joke. But she kept picturing his pale, pale skin, his cold, limp body. When the bell for 5th period rang, Renee jumped up. I'll let you know what happened with PJ as soon as school is over, she promised her friends. She wished at least one of them had history with her so she wouldn't have to face PJ all alone. Renee reached class before anyone else, including the teacher. Every time the door opened, she checked to see if PJ had arrived. Lisa Bloom ambled in and smiled at Renee. I heard you had a pretty wild party last night. Renee had answered questions about the party and the joke that backfired all day. She didn't want to talk about it anymore. Pretty wild, she mumbled, then stared down at her history book. She kept sneaking glances at PJ's desk, but always found it empty. The second bell rang, and no PJ. Renee felt her stomach knot. Where is he? Why won't PJ let his joke end? Is he that angry at us for playing a trick on him? I wish I could apologize to him, and Liz. I wish he'd show up so I could tell him I'm never playing another joke. Never. Renee tried to focus on Mr. Northwood's lecture. Then she gave up and stared blankly at the chalkboard. She'd make it through the class, as long as Mr. Northwood didn't call on her. The bell finally rang. Renee couldn't wait to tell Sean that PJ didn't show up. She grabbed her books and rushed out the door. Liz stood down the hall with Ty. Perfect, Renee thought. I can apologize and check up on PJ. She hurried through the crowded, noisy hallway toward them. Wait, Renee thought, slowing her steps. Something's wrong. Liz's face appeared red and puffy. She's crying, Renee realized. Crying so hard her shoulders are shaking, and Ty is trying to comfort her. Before Renee could get to them, she saw Liz break away from Ty and dash wildly down the hall. Ty hesitated, then followed after her. Renee stared down the hall after her friends. What's going on today? Why was Liz crying? Uh-oh, the English assignment. I didn't read it, and the way today is going, we'll get one of Ms. Roper's hideous pop quizzes. Renee checked her watch. Still a few minutes before class. Where to go to do some rush reading? The gym. No sixth period classes there. Perfect. She hurried down the hall, rounded the corner, and pushed through the gym's double doors. She climbed to the fourth row of the bleachers, opened her English textbook, and heard something go clink directly beneath her. Dropped her pen. Figures, Rennie muttered. Her mom had given her the pen. A really good one with Rennie's name engraved on it, so Rennie had to find it. She scrambled down to the gym floor, hurried behind the bleachers, and crawled underneath them. The wooden bleachers rose above her in a massive framework of supports and slats. One appeared identical to another. Where had she been sitting? Rennie heard footsteps, low voices. People entered the gym. "He's vanished. Vanished," a girl murmured, her voice quavering. A familiar voice. Liz's voice. Peering between the seats, Rennie discovered Liz and Ty. They stood beneath the basketball net. Ty gently stroked Liz's hair. "Let's drive around town and try to find out if anyone has seen him," he suggested. "Thank you," Liz replied. She hugged him. What is this? Rennie wondered. Could PJ really be missing? It feels creepy spying on them, Rennie thought. But I need to find out the truth. If PJ really is missing, I don't know what I'm going to do. As Rennie watched, Liz gently pulled Ty's head to hers and kissed him. A long, serious kiss. Whoa, Rennie thought. Liz was crying so hard a few minutes ago, and now she's kissing Ty as if everything is wonderful. Why? The bell rang. Liz and Ty strolled out of the gym, holding hands. Rennie spotted her pen and grabbed it. She trotted to English class. She made it into her seat about 10 seconds before the late bell sounded. That's cutting it close, Ms. Roper warned, giving Rennie a stern look. You all read the assignment on Julius Caesar, she stated. Now, who wants to tell us what happened? No one volunteered. The teacher's eyes scanned the room, searching for a victim. Not me, Rennie pleaded, sinking lower into her seat. Please, not me. Ms. Roper's eyes fixed on someone else. John, you tell us what's happening in the play. John Clayton hadn't been at Rennie's party. He probably hadn't read the assignment either. You have read it, haven't you? Ms. Roper asked. Well, John stammered. The door opened. Mr. Hernandez, the principal, stuck his head in. Excuse me, class, Ms. Roper said. She joined Mr. Hernandez in the hall, closing the door behind her. A moment later, she reappeared. Rennie, Mr. Hernandez would like to talk to you. Everyone stared at Rennie. She rose slowly, gathering her books. She'd never been called out of class by the principal. It had to be serious. The principal didn't call people out of class if it wasn't serious. Rennie stepped into the hall. The police officer from her party stood beside the principal. Sergeant Jackson has some questions for you. Please go with him, Mr. Hernandez said. He ran his hand nervously over his thinning hair. Wild thoughts spun through Rennie's brain. Is this about the prank call? Or something else? Has something really horrible happened?